Hello YouTube, welcome to the garage. I just want to bring you along on this project I'm working on. I didn't record it from the very beginning because there's some other videos out there that kind of cover this, and and I didn't want to be redundant about it. But I did learn some things as I was taking this apart. What this is, it's a 2013 Ford F250 Super Duty. It's got the 6.7 liter turbo diesel in it, and it needed a water pump, the primary water pump, not the secondary water pump. The primary water pump, and there were some other videos, people showing how to do it, a couple different ways. And, so I thought, well, I'll just, I didn't make a video on it. But while I was doing the job, I've got it all the way tore apart. It's, I'm ready to put it all back together now. But there were some things that I wanted to touch base on that weren't mentioned in other videos that I saw that might help you, and also maybe help you make the decision whether you actually want to do the job or not. Because it's, it's not, it's doable, but it's not the easiest water pump I've ever done. Definitely put it that way. I've seen a couple different ways to do it. One of them was to take the entire grill assembly off, the air conditioning condenser, the intercooler, the radiator, and rip all that stuff off. Then, it makes it a pretty easy job because you got the whole front of the motor exposed. But that's a lot of work. You got to reclaim the Freon and recharge the system, and you're run the risk of causing leaks and that kind of stuff. But so I didn't do it that way. I did it where, going through the top, leaving this all together. And like I said, there was, other videos that showed how to do it. And so I figured, didn't want to be redundant about it. But I said, I did learn some things, and I kind of want to share them with you and just kind of walk through the steps I did when I was taking it apart and what I ran into and kind of how I overcome it, And so what I'm going to do is, let's say, just kind of talk you through what I did. Obviously, so the first thing was, all these hoses and stuff like this. It's hard looking through the camera to make sure I know what I'm looking at. All these hoses that lay across the top here. I disconnected all of those, and then I took the air cleaner system off. It's pretty straightforward. Took this off, and then I took this off. And it said it, connects here. The breather box sits up here. There's one bolt that goes down through into the fan shroud that holds on, but here, and of course, the part that goes on top of the air cleaner. All right, once you get that off, then next you have your power steering pump here. One bolt holds it on. I just put a little hold down a bungee cord to hold that up out of the way. Take the one bolt out of that, and it slips down into the slot. I'll show you on the fan shroud when I pick it up here. Plus also the reservoir for the secondary cooling pump, which is right here. Zoomed in a little bit here. There we go. Secondary cooling pump is here, but the reservoir for that sits here. Let me show that to you. Sits there about like that. Two bolts. Hold it on. And then got hoses. And this one hose, most of them are, all of them are just worm gear clamps, except for this one. You have to squeeze this to get it out of, where's it? Let me get up there where I can see. Trying to show you where that goes. Right here. This is the one that goes in. You gotta squeeze these together to get it out of there. The rest of them are just actually spring clamps. Okay? Once you get that out of your way, next it will be your upper fan shroud. All right. Getting caught on everything. Oh well. So the secondary reservoir bolts here. I think Yeah, secondary reservoir bolts here. The power steering reservoir bolts here, and then there's a slot on it, on the front of it here, that slides down into there. So once you get that out, then you want to take the upper fan shroud out. Got a bolt here, a bolt through, goes into the radiator. Here, yeah, here. Then you've got bolt there, there, and there. That help? I'm not sure which would be the best. So I said 3 bolts over here, one there, there, and there. Again, this one goes through into the radiator underneath here. It's underneath this, but that's where it is. And so you got to reach down through there to get the other 2. Then once you get those bolts out, there's some wires. Here you got to pull the little Christmas trees out. There's one there. There's a couple of them. One over here. And then on this side, you got one you got to pull out. A wire down in there that you got to pull out. And once you get all that out, then you just got to, it's doable, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. Work it out this side first, work this up, and then work this side out. And there's a lot of stuff in the way, but eventually you can get it. All right, and once you get that off, next will be the water, the fan. And a couple different ways you could do it. I chose to take the bolts out of the fan here that go into the clutch, the fan clutch. You could take and unscrew it there with the big wrench and stuff, but I just took the 4 nuts off here and got the fan off. Okay, once I got the fan off, then the next thing to address is this, the fan stator. Let me get this up here where you can see it. All right, the fan stator. I'm gonna go and smash everything. What the heck? All right, this is the fan stator. Obviously, it goes around the fan, and there's 4 nuts. There's standoffs that has nuts that goes on. All right, in this little rubber lip here, I'm going to show you where it goes underneath the lower fan shroud. You can probably tell this one actually wasn't even installed correctly. This is all supposed to be underneath the lower fan shroud. All right, let me get up here on the step a little further. Like I said, this sits in here with this on the bottom. All right, of course, obviously it's sitting up like this. All right, well, and then and this rubber lip goes underneath the bottom of the fan shroud there. Okay, and with that underneath there, and here's where the nuts go on. There's the one standoff, the one right there. There's one here, and there's one here. Okay, once you take the nuts off that, the issue is there's not a whole lot of room between here, and you have to be able to take and pull these off of those studs. And then, once you get to clear that, which, I mean, you got to really pry on it, then you got to rotate this, basically, like, unscrew it. You got to, this kind of thing, where I don't know if I'm showing you very well, but, you kind of got to unscrew it out from underneath that lip down there. Okay? And like, obviously it's doable, but you got to unscrew. You can't just pull it up through there. You have to rotate the stator to get this rubber lip out from underneath there. You can't just pull it out. I tried and that doesn't work. You have to rotate this to get it out. And of course, like I said, you don't have a whole lot of room. You know, it's up against those studs and everything else, and so it's just, you got to work at it. It's a pain in the butt, but it can come out. But that's what you're going to be up against. You know, with the rubber lip underneath there, and you know, and against that, it's pushing the whole time. You got to keep prying and turning a little bit at a time, but you can get it. Okay, and then once you get that out, okay, let me get this. I just dropped the hose clamp. Oh well. All right, let me see if I can get my next item for show and tell here. All right, once you get, okay, sorry about that, but once you get that off, then next would be to take the, this is the, for the fan pulley, this is the bracket for the fan pulley. You know, it's pretty straightforward. You have to unplug. You know, there's a connector here you have to unplug, and then a bolt that you have to take out in order to get this all to come off. And take, I think there's 5 bolts in this thing to hold it on. Okay, and once you get that off, okay, like I said, that bolts over top of all this. And once you get that off, of course, you got your belt tensioner is going to be over here. Actually, I think you have to take that off before you can take the fan off. The belt tensioner is over here. And the belt tensioner, the hole in that is a 3/8 inch. It's not a 1/2 inch like most of them. And I use the 3/8 breaker bar because that tensioner is really stout. So I had to use a breaker bar to get it to move in order to get the belt off. But it's a 3/8 drive, not a 1/2 inch like a lot of them. Okay, and once you get that off, you got the fan pulley assembly off. There's 2 idler pulleys. They go about here and here. I took the pulleys off. That's all getting replaced on this truck. It's getting a new belt. There's 2 idler pulleys, both idler pulleys, and it's going to get the tensioner. Okay. Then once you get that off, there's, you know, some. This is for the. I think I do believe the camshaft position sensor, but be that as it may, there's a sensor you have to unplug. See if we can get some light in here. I moved everything. Okay, you gotta unplug that down there and move up out of the way. I think this has got the camshaft position sensor in the yeah. This is the camshaft position sensor. It goes down there, and then that's for the fan. But there's also these little plastic, you know, Christmas trees that hold it. You got to pull those out to get that out of your way. And then once you get to the water pump itself, you know, you get all that out. And get this up out of the way again. Sorry about that. I want to grab my thumb. Okay. Once you get all that out of the way, then you start working on the water pump. Let me show you. Again, you know, this is taken apart. There's other videos that show you with it together. Okay. Okay, obviously here's the old water pump. Here's the new water pump. Okay. Now, as far as, you know, the bolts, there's it takes an 8mm socket and a 10mm socket to get the bolts out. All right, these bolts up here are not too bad. They're pretty straightforward. Okay, it's the ones right here, across here, are the real pain in the butt to get to. Not only do you have this in your way, but you have this. Okay, this is the you know, the cables for the alternator and stuff like that. Plus you have this power steering line right here. You know, it's got a bracket that holds it against the water pump, and plus there's two screws. So there's just no room to work, and the stuff doesn't move very far. Like you see, there's one bolt that goes there, and there's, you know, I'm going to get underneath and show you a little better, but you know, there's bolt back there, and there's one down there further, and then also you have a couple of nuts. Right there's the stud. Can you see it? Right there's the stud. There's a nut there. There's a nut right there. You take that off that stud, and you get a little bit of movement out of that, but not a whole lot. And you know, one video I saw where the guy did it from the top, he took this whole power steering alternator bracket assembly off, and he had that moved over here where this stuff wasn't in the way. It moved the power steering line here, and all these wires were out of the way, and you can get right to all those bolts down there. But I'll tell you, that's a big job to pull all that off. I don't know what all is attached to it. He said there's only 4 bolts that hold the whole bracket on, but I don't know what else is attached to that. I work alone. I wouldn't be able to have someone hold that in place while I tried to get bolts in there. So I wasn't gonna, you know, get into that can of worms. I would have just been screwed myself. So what I did is I did do it from the bottom, but let me pause the video and let me get underneath there and get some lights set up and show you how I did it. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're underneath the truck now, and hopefully I can do you a little bit of justice here. Let me get my pointer turned on here. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Let me, okay, so you've got your cable and your, little holder there. I told you about the nuts that hold that on. There's also, I'm trying to look through the camera and make sure I'm showing you what I want you to see. And of course, I can't see with my glasses on. $500 for glasses, and I take them off to see. Okay. All right, there's a bolt that, there's 2 bolts that hold that on. There's 2 nuts, and there's two bolts. And it takes a 7mm nut to get that off. Okay, and once you get those 2 bolts out, you see, you can move that a little bit, but you're up against this power steering steel line there, and I'm thinking I don't want to be bending that, and really hopefully that light isn't too much in your eyes up there. Bending that and trying to get it bent back, and without breaking it is would be a pain in the butt. But as far as the water pump bolts, I want to make sure, like especially like that one right there. Hopefully I'm showing it to you. Okay, that one right there. With the water pump in there, all of this stuff was in the way, in that bolt there too. What I ended up having to do to get those out is I used a ratcheting open end wrench, but the lower radiator hose was in the way. Okay, so because it goes on right there, where it goes on. You see right there where it goes on. But and also there's the heater hose, and it goes up to the heater core. Let me get my laser on it right there. Okay, with a little clip, you pull that clip out and that comes right off. But in order to get the lower radiator hose off, okay, you have to take the clip out of it, and the clip is right here. This is the clip, and it goes in from this direction. Okay, and once it you get it in there, I don't know if it's in the groove on the top or not. There you go. It goes in like that. Okay, basically once it's in place, there you go. Okay, once it's in place, it snaps down in there. All right, the thing of it is, when it's up on where it goes there, all right, that clip is back in on, you know, behind. You can't reach in. Here's the frame. You can't get in behind there to get any kind of a hook in that. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I had to take a flat blade screwdriver, and on each side I had to, you know, stick it in where the end of this clip is on both sides. I had to push it back, and that was really stuck in there. I had to really push to get that clip to come out of there on both sides. Once I got both sides out, then you know, I reached up in there with a pair of long needles, those pliers, pulled it off. Then I had to wiggle this off, and once I got it off and got that down out of the way, plus I also turned the wheel sharp to the right to get the steering out of the way, I could reach up in there with a open end wrench to get those last bolts out. So obviously once I got those bolts out, you know, that was, you know, my biggest dilemma. But hang on, let me get up underneath the truck. Okay, I'm back up top. Hopefully, when I review this video, if it's just too painful to watch, I'm not even going to post it. But like I said, I just wanted to kind of go over a couple things that were, you know, like a little troublesome that you might struggle with if you want to do this on your own, especially if you're doing it in like just your driveway or something like that. But you know, it's a doable job. You don't need a whole lot of sockets, like a 7, 8, 10. I think 13 and 15. Not, you know, as far as not a whole lot of tools, but you know, so Ford didn't make it easy. You know, you got a little bit of trouble getting the upper fan shroud off, you know, because it's just so tight over here. But it's doable. And then once you get the fan shroud off, you use the 4 nuts to take the fan off, and then the fan stator. I said you got these 4 studs they mount on, but you know, it's so tight against the bottom of the lower radiator, the shroud, and you have to kind of rotate that out of there. Is it, you know, is it doable? Yes. Is it a pain in the butt? Yes. It is a big pain in the butt getting it to do that. It's easy to say just rotate it out, but it's easier said than done. Okay, but you know, as I said, obviously you can get it out, right? And then once you get that out, just taking off, you know, the belt tensioner, idler pulleys, pretty straightforward. That fan bracket, you know, for the, you know, pretty straightforward. Just pull the bolts out. Obviously unplug the wires that go to it. Camshaft position sensor, and get that stuff out of the way. And then the vast majority of the bolts are, you know, very accessible. It's just down there is with, you know, for years, Ford ran all the cables across the top here. And for decades, they did that. Why all of a sudden they had to run them across down there, you know, I have no idea. You know, the battery cables, I have no idea why they did that. You know, some engineer who had a bad day or whatever. But be that as it may, and then with this power steering steel line there, you can't pull it back, get very much room. But I said I did it from underneath with an open end box and wrench. Once I pulled the lower radiator hose off, like I said, after I got that off, because the way they designed it, you can't get to that clip to pull it out. You have to basically push it off both sides. And once I got that out of the way, then I could reach up in there and get those out of there. And of course, obviously, it's in the reverse order, putting it back together. But you know, I had to kind of figure out, you know, what I needed to do to get myself some room, and then how to, then that lower radiator hose was a pain in the butt to get off. But now that you know how to do it, but I just want to let you know that clip is in there really solid. You really have to push to get that to come up out of there. All right. But while you're here, these things are notorious for the vacuum pumps leaking oil, and it's because there's a gasket right in here. I don't have my laser on me. Fell out of my pocket, but there's 4 bolts that hold it on. One here, and then there's 2 more. And I can't see it. Maybe you can see them down there, but there's 2 bolts down there. There's 4 altogether. And what happens is something, either weren't torqued right from the factory. They definitely did not have any Loctite on them from the factory. But the oil leak wasn't a complaint on this. But since I have it apart, I'm going to take these bolts out. They're torqued. The spec is 89 inch-pounds, but there's no Loctite on. So I'm going to pull each of these out and put just a little drop of blue Loctite on and put them back in and run them down to the 89 inch-pounds. Just since I'm right here, some cheap insurance, I'm going to take care of that so this doesn't start leaking down the road. I don't know how loose these are, if they're loose at all, but be that as it may, I'm going to put Loctite on this, just a little preventative maintenance. And as far as that's concerned, trying to think if there's anything else I can say. That's just one, like, kind of something that you really should do while you're here. And I don't know, again, like I said, if I watch the video and it's just too entirely painful, I won't post it. But I just kind of wanted to cover a few points that weren't mentioned. So the one video I watched where the guy did a good video showing how he's taking it all apart. When he got down to the water pump and he had, some of the bolts taken out, the next scene was he had the pump in and he was putting it back together. He didn't show how he got all of these bolts out down here, okay? Like I said, the one video that did show it, he had all this stuff laying over here and none of this was in the way, okay? All of that was moved. It made it real easy to get to. But so that's basically one of the main reasons I wanted to show make this video, is so you have an idea about how you can get those bolts out of there underneath this cluster that Ford designed. So take the lower radiator hose off, and I said I turned the wheel sharp to the right to give myself some more room to get up in there, but I used the ratcheting box end wrench to get those out, and that's what I'll use to put them in and tighten them. Will I be able to get my torque wrench on there to make sure they're torqued to spec? No, but they're going to be good and tight and they're not going to back out. So all the rest of them will be torqued to spec, but everything else, the ones I can't get on the torque, will be nice and tight, so I'm not worried about anything backing out. So hopefully that'll help somebody out, and as I said, you can make a decision whether you actually want to do this job or not. It's doable, but it is a pain in the butt, and to be perfectly honest, at 64 years old, I'm not sure I want to do another one of these. So, but that's another story. So, you know the deal. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.